Okay, so welcome. I am so excited to get to talk to you guys today about going from burnout to balance. This is something that is near and dear to my heart because if you had seen me about a little over 5 years ago, I was definitely in the burnout cycle at 45 years old, and so many women do experience burnout, and there are some key things we can do to get ourselves out of that burnout cycle and more balanced and thriving in life. So we're going to talk about that today. And then at the end, we're going to have some Q&A. So feel free to share questions or comments in the chat, or wait till the end and we can go through and answer questions for you. So first off, what is burnout? And burnout happens when we have this ongoing stress in our lives that outweighs our ability to recover. We don't have as much residual, and this affects us physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's when you're feeling that deep exhaustion and you feel like you're running on empty, you're losing motivation, you're feeling detached from things that used to matter to you. You'll also notice that your capacity to handle daily life is lower. And you feel as though you're just trying to survive from day to day. And I was just having a discussion with one of my sweet friends who's been experiencing some burnout. And it was yesterday we were talking. And she was saying how she enjoys the weekend. We were hiking Mount Scott and we were going to brunch, and how she just is like, she's like, I live for the weekend. And then Monday comes around and she's like, I'm trying to be grateful I get to wake up and exercise, but it's back to the grind. It's back to really long days at work. And I told her, I said, that is a signal of burnout. When you wake up and you're living for the weekend, and you wake up on Monday and you feel that weight, or Sunday evening as you're preparing for the week, you feel that weight on you, that you're already feeling like you're not set up for success, and that fear of failure, that is already leaning towards burnout and experiencing burnout. Those are some of the warning signs. And really, what burnout is really coming and stemming from when we allow fear to control our life choices. Okay. And that's powerful. And we're going to talk about that more. And what happens when we're in fear? It's because we're in a state of living a life that does not align with our true self and calling. So a lot of times, when we're in burnout, for instance, I experienced burnout years ago when I was working over 60, sometimes up to 80 hours a week in the pediatric clinic as a nurse practitioner. Even though my calling and passion is to serve others, help others, heal others, work with families, and I loved that part of the job, I knew that the environment I was in, the management I was in was toxic, and the hours and the expectations were unrealistic. So I felt like I was set up for failure every day. The reason I was in burnout is I was not willing to step out. I was not willing to step out into where I could pivot and change and get into another job that would align better with myself. It was that fear of change, and many of us feel that. Kathy, go ahead. We just got started. I'm going to have you unmute and you take over here because I know you have a lot that you can talk on this.
Well, I apologize, ladies. That was definitely not supposed to happen, but I got an email saying this didn't happen till 2 o'clock. So I'm completely discombobulated. But that's okay because burnout doesn't have this effect on me like it used to. So, Linnea, thank you so much for everything. And thank you, everyone, for your patience. And one of the things that I want you to all understand is that when we learn how to deal with stress properly, we definitely don't have to suffer from burnout. And that is one of the things that a lot of us we are carrying away more than we need to be carrying. And it is not just mentally, it's physically and emotionally as well. And the biggest part of it comes from relationships and our obligations. And so until we see that, where this is coming from, we keep going. We just keep doing. And then that's when we end up in this deep state of exhaustion, where we end up running on empty and looking for losing our motivation to do the things that really are most important to us in our life, but we don't have the wherewithal to do it like we want to. And so this whole opportunity is really just an encouragement that it doesn't have to be that way. And if you're starting to feel those little bits of in your handling your daily life in a way that you don't feel totally present and at the level that you want to be, just know that this is here at this time in your life for the reason that we are going to avoid burnout. We're going to go to that place of really dealing with things in a much wiser way, so we don't have to go to burnout. And it really, fear is the controlling force behind the burnout, because what happens is we get to being, like, we want to please people, or we want to do the maximum that we can possibly do, or whatever it is. Or if I don't do this, something will happen, all of it'll fall apart if I don't do this, or someone will reject me or have an attitude towards me if I don't do this, or I'll just feel bad about myself if I don't do this. And it's really based in fear. So the first step is to really acknowledge that, sometimes we're doing things basically that are causing us more stress than we were ever created to put on. And so that's really basically where we start from. And then the thing about it is, fear and burnout walk hand in hand. It's not maybe, it will. It will definitely walk hand in hand, because your brain is receiving all these fear things, and it is pushing you. And then we get into guilt and shame, and then we're even that much more frustrated with our lives. And so and that triggers that fight, flight, or freeze. And so we find ourselves, more oftentimes than not, in that I personally don't like to fight, and I'm not one to run away, so I freeze. I just don't do some things. And then that creates more pressure on me and creates more burnout. So, yeah, we just need to start with number one. Let's identify what's going on really emotionally. Am I in fear of not pleasing somebody, or not doing something and there being repercussions, or if I let go of something, that how that will be perceived and judged? Let's really start at the beginning and see what's driving us. So, yeah, Linnea, go ahead and you take it. I think you take it now.
Let's see. This one, go ahead. This one is you.
Okay. So I basically covered this. Fear is a signal. When you start feeling yourself being constrictive or pulling back in a situation, that is that signal. It's like a smoke alarm going off. There's something going on the inside me, and I need to address that. Instead of seeing, like it says here, it's not a sentence. It's my body asking for something. Either I need to find out the truth about the situation, or I'm neglecting my body, which I was the queen of neglecting my body, and I didn't rest and I didn't do the nutrition. And so these things, they culminate, they start out in creating these acute problems that we mask with over-the-counter drugs, or this, that, and the next thing. But in actuality, it's the body screaming out, I need your attention, I need your help. And so, yeah, this is where we are as women, because we're givers. We love to give, we love to do. We're full of great ideas, smart women, but we really do need to come to this place where we understand where the burnout comes from and stop it before it gets a real hold on us, and bring our lives back to balance.
Great. And then I wanted to share with you guys some statistics. But before that, I want to go through this kind of emotional loop. And it can actually be called like a burnout loop. And just like Kathy said, we're starting with fear. They go hand in hand. So this fear comes up. Maybe it's fear of changing jobs, fear of not doing the things. I know for me, it was always living up to others' expectations, especially parental expectations, and setting the bar really high. But maybe not aligning with my true self and calling in the way I wanted to show up because we're so busy trying to live up to others' expectations. That can be one. But this fear happens, and when you have fear, like Kathy was talking about, this triggers your stress hormones, the stress response system, which is the fight, flight, or freeze that Kathy was talking about. And our body, when we have fear, and it could be fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of change. There's, fear of things going on in the world. But fear in this day and age, it is an innate signal in our body. And when fear happens, it was for survival. And it did a great job many, many moons ago helping us. But now, when we get worried because we see something on the news or we're fearful about changing jobs or doing something, our body doesn't know if we're running from a tiger or if it's something we saw in the news. So our body goes into this full-on stress response where we're in fight, flight, or freeze, which is an innate survival signal when we had to run from tigers and survive. And and even though our system responds the same way, the fear trigger is very different. Me seeing something on the news in the safety of my home is not the same as being out without protection running in the jungle from a tiger. But our body doesn't know the difference. So that fear cycle persists. That stress hormone cycle gets in because our body's innately wired that way. And after a while, we wear out. We're just exhausted because we're not getting a break. We're just over signal the stress response over and over again. Because when we would get away from the tiger in many moons ago, our bodies would reset. But here we have this perpetual stress hormone trigger from all the things coming at us in life, from social media to all the things we experience. We go into exhaustion, then we have trouble sleeping, which we are going to talk about more about how important that is for our bodies to heal and reset. And when we're not sleeping and our bodies are completely exhausted and tapped out, well, we have less coping mechanisms, we have less capacity, we have less bandwidth to be able to handle the things coming at us. And then we go into more fear because our brain is now on this cycle of that negative cycle, stress hormone cycle, fear cycle, and we just keep going. And we really have to have some tools to be able to break that and thrive. And we are going to give you that. And what happens is, like Kathy said, when we are high achieving, and women in general, we're caregivers, we're nurturers, we do many things. We're meant to be the nurturers and caregivers in our family. We're designed that way. Many of us take on so much more in the world to impact our community. As Lawton business women, we're doing things in our
Mm.
community to serve on top of all the other hats we wear because that's on our heart. You'll see this happen in entrepreneurs, nurses, teachers, caregivers, and really any woman can experience this because of how we're wired. Because we just feel responsible for everyone and everything, and we stop taking care of ourselves because we're doing all the things that we were taught to do and that our body innately wants to do, and we haven't paused. And I know Kathy likes to say that spot in between your eyebrows, that's your pause button. When you start seeing that kind of frown or wrinkle between, that's your pause button. That's when you need to pause. So some of the statistics we have is that 83% of employees say burnout hurts their relationships. I will tell you that even though I was aligned with my passion and purpose, the environment I was in was toxic, which was giving me burnout and setting us up for failure in the medical world. And that's just one aspect, but it was a career burnout. But when I was saying that my family came first and everything I did was for my family, if you looked at how many hours I spent at work and how much that overlapped into my family time and how it affected my relationships because I was exhausted and I felt like a zombie. And so because of that, I I was not showing up in my full self for my family. And so they got impacted by how I was feeling, even though I felt like what I was doing in my career was benefiting my family. Then
Mm.
79% report chronic stress symptoms, like that emotional exhaustion, that lack of motivation, that physical exhaustion. And that's, we're going to cover things and we're going to give you tools today that can really help you reset and pour into yourselves so that you can thrive. Because I truly believe when we pour into ourselves, and many people, we think it's selfish, especially as women, we don't want to pause
Mhm.
and do anything for ourselves because we feel like it takes away from the family and it's selfish and we need to give, not receive. But I tell you, if you can just pause with that little frown between your eyebrows, your pause button, and you take a breath and you take some things, anything from here that you want to start with that we give you, and you start implementing it and pouring into yourself, you will see how much more capacity and bandwidth you have, and the things that used to feel overwhelming are no longer overwhelming because your capacity has gone up. And then that ripples out, and this ripple effect happens where your whole family, your relationships, your productivity at work, the impact you make in the community, all of it improves. And it's not as overwhelming, but we have to get over that hump of not of feeling like we're selfish when we do something for ourselves to move the needle forward. It's actually what needs to happen to
Mhm.
10x ourselves to be able to handle and do all the things we truly have on our heart to do. And then 49% of women in the United States do report experiencing burnout. And I hear this all the time in the clients I work with, and I know Kathy does too. And it's something like I said this weekend, just with friends. And then yesterday I was at a little event. This is the common thread that keeps coming up. And I thought it was such a God wink that in the last week, all these themes kept coming at me over and over again, more concentrated than usual, because I knew we were going to be doing this talk. And then I'm hearing it from all kinds of places and people in my life. So one of the reasons we, also want to get a hold and pause and start pouring into ourselves and using some of these tools is because when we continue to be in this chronic stress and burnout state, we have negative health impacts. This is
Mhm.
huge, and this is where my heart really comes in from because I've seen it personally and in so many clients I work with. So, when we have stress and burnout, we're not just talking about the emotional experiences and the mindset part, although mindset is huge in this, and we're going to talk about that. There are actually biological events and consequences that happen where we're reshaping our hormones, our immune function is impacted, and even our DNA is impacted. This affects the whole person, which is why Kathy and I partnered on this because we're taking it from both perspectives and
Mhm.
both is so important. And of course, being a lifestyle medicine nurse practitioner, I'm seeing the chronic health issues in my clients. And so, what are the negative health impacts? Well, your nervous system fatigues. And that is what we talked about when we talked about that stress fear loop, the emotional loop that could really be a burnout loop. Your nervous system is exhausted. You have anxiety. You start to see emotional instability. I know in me, and I am no longer in this space, which is why I'm so passionate about sharing this with you because I used to be in burnout and I've been thriving for years now, and it's just one step at a time in the right direction. But the emotional instability for me, it was low frustration level. So things that now it's like doesn't matter, rolls off my back, little things would, I had no capacity to handle it. So I
Mhm.
would react more abruptly to things that normally wouldn't bother me because I had less capacity and bandwidth to handle it. Over time, your body loses its ability to return to balance. Our bodies always want to be in homeostasis, which is your body just being in balance, and it's always trying to return to that. But when you're chronically under stress and burnout, and your body, your stress nervous system is on overload, eventually your body's not able to get back on track. As that happens, you're in chronic inflammation. Chronic stress is leading to chronic inflammation. We're leading to chronic diseases. Well, heart disease is the number one killer in the United States. And when I say heart disease, I'm talking high blood pressure, high cholesterol. When I say coronary artery disease, that can be heart attacks, blockages in your heart, blood vessels, things that need stents. Those are the types of coronary artery disease. That's what I'm talking about. Type 2 diabetes. One in two people in the United States are either pre-diabetic or diabetic, and most don't even know it. That's how severe that illness, that chronic disease is in this country. Thyroid disease, more and more common. Obesity. I will tell you, almost 93% of this country has some kind of metabolic dysfunction, meaning overweight, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or blood sugar issues. 93% of people in this country, of adults in this country, and we're a first world country and number one in healthcare. So that tells you a lot. Autoimmune disease, especially in women, this shows up more in women, especially in our 40s. We're seeing things, these chronic diseases are actually showing up earlier because of all the stress and everything that we're dealing with and not knowing how to cope and pour into ourselves, which is why
Mhm.
Kathy and I are here and so passionate about this. I have two autoimmune diseases that culminated from all the years of stress. That is not what Kathy says, is that's not my story. Autoimmune disease was just the beginning of my life of going down this holistic lifestyle approach. I still see my Western medicine doctors for my checkoff, make sure I'm good, check my labs. But what I do from a lifestyle standpoint has moved the needle so far in a positive direction that I'm thriving without needing all the pills and everything that you would normally expect with this. So it is possible, and it's a balance and getting more information and knowing how to help heal yourself from the inside out. Mental health, anxiety, and depression are huge in this country. Unfortunately, when I was in pediatrics, I was seeing it in the younger and younger populations, teenagers, and even kids in elementary school, which breaks
Mhm.
my heart. And I know that touches your hearts too.
Mhm.
Stomach issues, GI issues. So we're seeing
Mhm.
ulcers, reflux, gastric reflux, GERD, also gastritis, where your stomach just hurts all the time.
Mm.
Irritable bowel syndrome is a part of that chronic illness as well, where people are having issues with their bowels. Now, I know for me, when I was in Western medicine, working in the hospitals and with heart patients and with the elderly, in this country, we've normalized aging means getting sick, and we're going to be in a wheelchair. We're not going to be able to be active, and we're going to be seeing all our doctors, and most people retire and they're just seeing tons of doctors. That is not normal aging. That's inflammaging. That's all the inflammation and stress and burnout and lack of the lifestyle holistic approach in this country because of how the standard American diet is and what we do in this country. So that is the norm in this country because of we're not taking care of ourselves and we don't know. It's not because we're choosing it, it's because we don't know. And when you know better, you can do better, which is also what Kathy and I are passionate about. And so part of this education is knowing that as you're aging, you can slow your aging down. You can age and thrive.
Yes.
You can be extremely healthy. You can increase your longevity. But if you stay in this cycle, you're looking at aging more rapidly and your longevity will be decreased. I will tell you, there are people younger than me that look much older than me. And then I know older people that look my age or younger. And it's all in how you show up with your lifestyle and how you're managing your stress and your mindset that really makes an impact. And then also, it will impact hormone balance and infertility. You will see hormone imbalances, which is going back to thyroid disease and type 2 diabetes and having obesity. And then we have a lot of infertility issues in this country now, and that also stems from this.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And so what do we do? How do we move out of this from burnout to thriving? And that's what this is all about because both Linnea and I are passionate about women being able to really enjoy their lives, all the hard work that they put in and everything. But the thing about it is, it does have to start with a decision that that's not how my story ends, because that's what happened to me when I was in my early 50s and was doing way too much, spinning way too many plates, trying to take care of way too many people, and not listening to the signals. The acute things were showing up. I was having headaches and overweight and eating poorly and all those things. They were starting to come into my life more frequently. And it wasn't until I made that decision in that doctor's office when that doctor kindly told me, women your age, you have two autoimmune diseases and you'll probably develop two to three more because women your age, that's what they do. And I just looked at him like, mm-mm, thank you for sharing. But, and that's how this journey started for me. I made a decision. My story doesn't have to end that way. I'm not going to be trapped in my body. And then I started to look for answers. And when I did, I met my first coach, my first mentor. And the first thing that we started on was changing my thoughts. And it was just like Linnea was talking about. In this country, we have this mentality that aging means sickness and that these things, these degenerative things, have to happen to us at an accelerated rate, or it's just inevitable in so many ways. And that's just not true, because the body is constantly trying to replenish and heal itself. And we slough off old cells all the times and we're building new. But if we're building them from the same platform that we started with, we're going to get the same sort of sick cells. So the thing about it is we start with our emotions. We start with just pause and we decide, if they can do it, I can do it too. And that's the truth. Nobody is so Linnea and I just found a pathway that we want to share with others, because if it worked for us, it'll work for you too. And that's the whole idea. This is not rocket science. It's just a commitment to, okay, I have to examine the negative emotions going on in my body, because it is contributing to inflammation and autoimmune disease. And so I need to start with that. And if I'm feeling bad or not enjoying my life more than I want to, and I just don't feel good, then these are those signals. I want to really get in touch with myself and be honest with myself. And then, going to identifying, what am I afraid of? What is this survival? Why am I, why am I, fighting off of this, or freezing, or running away from that? What is going on the inside of me? Because, like I said earlier, the fight, flight, or freeze part of us, like Linnea was talking about, many moons ago when we were on, having to survive out against wild beasts and everything. That only happened a very small part of our life. It was just, we weren't exposed all the time. Life was going on as usual. And our nervous system is more prone, was created to be more at rest than it was at fight, flight, or freeze. But yet, with all the dings, the messages, the input, that the amount of input that's going into our nervous system through our eye gates and our ear gates on a continual basis is constantly bringing us into this heightened state. And so we just really need to see that this is not normal. This is not how we were created to live. And we need to make some decisions to change some of the things that we're doing, because, and that's the next slide. Nothing changes, nothing changes. And then, but the truth of the matter is, the positive side of this is we can change the way our body is regulating, our nervous system is regulating, so we can handle stresses better. But we have to learn some new skill sets, and we have to change some situations. And we were talking about the toxicity, it's in the air, it's in the food, it's in the water, and it's in our relationships, maybe in our home and in our job. Those are toxic toxins that are coming in. So we really need to see and look at and realize that we can change some things and change stressful situations, and learn to, and now we can recover faster if we have the right tools and we have the understanding of how that does. And so, and one of those is being in a state of gratitude. And I know you've heard it. I'll make a gratitude journal and write 10 things down, blah, blah, blah. I know that syndrome, But the truth of the matter is, when you sit down and you really start to understand that gratitude is going to change the environment internally. You're going to change the way you receive and see things. That's very important. And fear and anxiety and gratitude don't coexist. So you're either in this state of fear, flight, anxiety, and all this stuff going on, or you've switched and you've changed what you're focusing on, and you're really giving attention to those things in your life that are good, that you're blessed with, that you see as much as you see the negatives. We have a tendency as humans to gravitate to all the negative possibilities instead of seeing all the blessings all around us in the smallest details of our life. And that's when we start to really get the benefits of gratitude. And then that's when you're rewiring your brain, when you're shifting from left brain figure it out mode, stuck mode. That's all left brain logistics and the reality of what I'm seeing. Your brain is taxed too much in the left region and it needs to be switched over to the right region. And now you're creating those new neural pathways. You're overriding those negative neural pathways and you're creating a different response when stress starts coming in. You don't automatically go to the negative. You start to see there's a possibility for some good to happen here. There's a possibility there is an answer here. You've expanded your thinking to more than just you handling everything. And then, that's backed by science. There's so much science out there now that, this is not woo woo. This is total science. And we are the recipients of it now that people years ago didn't have this. Now we are so blessed to know this. So now it's up to us to utilize this stuff. And so go ahead, Linnea.
Thanks, Kathy. So when what Kathy was saying, nothing changes if nothing changes. And it really is a decision because the good news is we have the power at any age, at any stage, wherever we are in our life journey to make a decision now that we know better, to pivot and start doing things that will help pour into us and help us thrive and get the life we want. We're designing our life. We don't want to be time have control over us. Our day owns us. We want to own our day. And when we own our day and we design our life and we're pouring into ourselves, we have the capacity to do so much more in less time. And that was a conversation that not only Kathy and I have had, but it's been this thread that keeps coming up. So I know it's on our hearts that God is putting this on my heart and on our hearts to share this with you because it's something that I just keep hearing over and over again. So when you pause, and you have the information to know how to move in the direction you really want your life to go, because no one enjoys being stressed and fearful. But when just showing up here and listening to this and taking time out of your day, which we're all have full days and lots going on, just pausing and just plugging into this shows us that you want more and you're ready to design that life you truly want and to thrive. So how do, when we pause and we nourish our bodies, when we give our minds that rest that they need, when we set healthy boundaries, our bodies will begin to heal because it is never too late. I thought I was thriving until those 40s hit and being in a toxic work environment. Not necessarily the mission and the passion was there, but the environment I was in was not a conducive environment for thriving at all. And then decades of thinking I knew what I was doing with my lifestyle and doing okay. But when those hormones and menopause, perimenopause hit, it's decades of these toxins. All of a sudden, it culminates and it hits you like a Mack
Mhm,
truck. And
mhm,
so when that happened, and then of course we talk about all those decades of toxins coming in from environment related, all the things that Kathy was talking about, that's when your body shows up with chronic illness because it's been chronically inflamed all that time that you didn't realize. Because, like everyone, even though I'm medical, I was not paying attention to the signals my body
mhm,
was giving me. Complete exhaustion, anxiety, trouble sleeping, weight gain, all these things that our bodies go through that we ignore and band-aid. And if I had paused then, I probably could have stopped myself from heading towards chronic illness. But I know better now, and that's why it's my passion to share it with you, because the opposite of burnout is thriving. And what we want in order to thrive is we want to live that holistic, healthy lifestyle that consists of your nutrition. Food is truly medicine. Toxins are optional and thriving is possible. I promise you. Kathy and I have both shared lots with each other about our journeys, and there were things that happened that, like Kathy said, that impacted us in a way that both of our personalities, we stopped and said, enough's enough. That's not our story. I envision my future enjoying life, thriving, and when it's my time to be called home, I am sliding into home base and poof, I'm gone and not in a wheelchair and not with a walker and I don't have control over everything, but I do have control over what I'm doing to take care of myself outside of Western medicine, all the things that for thousands of years that have been tried and true that can truly make a positive impact in our lives that we've gotten away from because we're so sedentary. I just had this conversation with a group of college kids up in Edmond that I was blessed to get to go and spend some time with and do a little get together event with. And just telling them like how much movement do you guys get in a day? Because between college classes and studying and work, like how much are we actually moving? Because our bodies were designed to move, not sit. And yes, there's a time to rest, but when we're sitting all day and we're staring at these computers and we're inundated with social media, that's not how our bodies and minds were designed.
Mhm.
Managing stress, mindset. I know Kathy just spent some time out of the country and had some aha moments and it just validated really what she already
Mhm.
knew, but then it showed up more in a cancer aspect when we're talking about chronic illnesses and things. And I've seen this from early on. I was telling her when I first started out of nursing school in the ICU as a brand new nurse in her 20s. I know that mindset is everything when it comes to our health and wellness because I saw it firsthand. I had patients in the hospital that were set up to completely thrive, get out of the hospital and cure, or at least treat and get them out of an emergency setting, and they could get back home. And everything was pointing in that direction, but then they didn't make it. And then I had people who there was nothing that I could do to help them, and that things were grim. And
Mhm.
it was, you think it's a miracle, it's prayer, but things changed and they were thriving and they were able to walk again or wake up and communicate and go back to living their lives in people that I thought would never make it out of the hospital or even be conscious again. And it comes down to mindset and it is so powerful and we have the ability to positively impact our
Mhm.
lives but we're also our biggest critic. That inner voice can be a really big critic. I know I'm my worst critic, but I have learned when we talked about being able to change those neural pathways, like Kathy said, that's called neuroplasticity. Your mindset is not fixed. If you're
Mhm.
fixed, you're in a fixed mindset. That's a choice. And when you know better, you can do
Mhm.
better. So we're telling you, you can change that. So if you're experiencing, maybe it's not everything, but maybe there's certain things in life. I know for me, I had certain things that would trigger me. For instance, a cold shower. And I started doing cold plunges and realizing the health benefits of that. And I have completely rewired my brain now. So instead of having a PTSD moment from my childhood of taking a cold shower, I now go in there and if the water's cold, I thrive because I know it's a positive experience for my body from a health standpoint. But it took me intentionally
Mhm.
walking through some things to rewire that pathway that was triggering me negatively and stressing me to now being a positive. And that can be in any area of your life. You can do that. It's powerful. I've done it in lots of things in my own life. I just pick what I'm going to be intentional on and what I want to work on. And the more you're conscious about it, your brain will work in the subconscious level behind the scenes when you set the intention. But when you feel your brain start going down that cycle, pull it back over and say no, that's not the thought I want, this is what I want, and eventually you'll be always in that thriving mindset because you've reprogrammed your mind to be that way. And if it starts to stray a little bit, because we're never perfect, we're always growing and learning, then you'll catch it sooner. And then you'll also see other people's mindsets and how they're doing a lot faster when you're consciously growing and working on your own. It's pretty powerful. And you'll be able to help more people thrive. I know I make a bigger impact on my adult children, especially my 21-year-old in college who we're still working on the frontal lobe. She's a beautiful soul, but she's also dealing with life experiences that for her are overwhelming. And as her mom, because of what I've done for myself, I have more to be able to pour into her and help share with her. Instead of parenting and telling her what to do, I'm able to help her brain comprehend, kind of look at things zoomed out, give her tools so that she can make choices. And I'm not telling her, but I'm giving her the tools for life that she can use to be able to focus and move things forward instead of get stuck or look at the past and fall behind. Because we've all made mistakes in the past. And I think we get so stuck in focusing on the past and we're so critical of the choices we made. Those were all learning experiences. They were part of the journey. They're your story. Nobody's perfect, but we're growing from those. I will tell you the things I've been in through down the road and through in life have made me who I am today. So don't beat yourself up over them. Use them to propel yourself forward. Don't get stuck in the past. We want to be forward thinking and learning and growing and expanding. And that's thriving, not living in the past. And then sleep, we're going to talk about that. That's huge for thriving. We talked a little bit about that before and how our sleep cycles get disrupted. And of course, community, like minded, uplifting women women on a growth journey, successful, pouring into others, doing things to move the needle in our community in a positive way. That's what LBW does. And so just
Yes.
gathering for lunches and flamingos and us being together is powerful in the community
Yes.
aspect. And community is the number one part of all of those that impacts your longevity. If there was one thing that would impact your longevity the most, it's community. And you see that in
That's true.
the five blue zones in the world. And then healing really begins when we slow down long enough to listen to our body's needs. That's that pause button. Slow down, take a breath, really give yourself, we have so much noise coming in. Just take a breath and let yourself start healing by listening to what your body needs and pause and close your eyes and just think about what is my body telling me and what can I do? We just need to shut things out and we need that time. Sometimes it's early in the morning. A lot of successful people have a morning routine or an evening routine or both, whether it's gratitude and or devotion, prayer time, meditation, but allowing yourself to shut down so your body can tell you what it needs and you can reset and get ready for the day. And then we want to be aligned with our true self. And that's a lot of what Kathy works on. And that's really been my own journey as well, is peeling off the layers of what everyone's expectations are. I
Hmm.
know myself better than anyone. I know what my heart wants. I know how I want to show up and serve, and I know what my body needs. We have
Hmm.
to shut out the outside noise. We've got to get back to center and who we truly are. I'm in this space and I'm grateful and thankful I am because I shut out the rest of the world. And we had a big situation in our family. I told you guys about Taylor, and most of you know that my son went through cancer, and that was our aha moment that something needed to change so I could show up for my family
Yes.
and take care of my son. Unfortunately, we needed that kind of a big wake up call. I don't want anyone to have to go through that, but when that
Hmm.
happened, it really made me stop and ignore all the noise outside and focus on what aligns with my true self and where do I want to be and how do I want to
Hmm.
show up for the rest of my life.
Hmm. Yes.
And then we talked about nutrition is the first on the list because food is truly medicine and we're not giving our bodies the nourishment it needs to thrive. There are four pillars to gut health that will improve your overall health and well-being. I tell my clients and when I teach and educate others, your gut is your command center of your body. Your gut is your second brain. So when we're here talking about mindset and sleep and focus and thriving, the neurotransmitters, all the hormones and things that work in our brain are actually the majority of them are made in our gut. They don't teach us that in Western medicine,
Right.
but that is science and research backed. And so
Hmm.
that's why your gut health is so important. So when I talk about nutrition, I don't talk about diet, cutting calories, eat less, move more. That is antiquated. It is not evidence based. What I want to see you do is thrive and focus on what can you do to help your body thrive through thriving in your gut. And then that will impact your mental state, your mindset as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it increases your bandwidth, it increases your capacity, and you will manage stress better. And this was how I started on my journey. So, this is where I come from working in gut health, lifestyle medicine with a medical background. So, just working on what are the four things? Number one, protein.
Hmm.
Protein is a building block of health. If we don't have protein, we can't rebuild, repair, or thrive. If you've ever had a wound and been to the doctor, the number one thing they tell you is you need protein to heal that wound. The majority of what we eat in this country, in the United States, is loaded with sugar. Everything. We even put sugar in our bread. When you travel outside of this country, you will find that other things are not as sweet and loaded with the ultra processed sugar, refined white sugar. We eat in the United States, about 70% of our diet is ultra processed. We need to get back to basics, good,
Yes.
clean protein, whether it's vegan based, plant based, animal based, it needs to be clean. Okay, so when I talk about clean protein animal based, you're looking at grass-fed beef is the best way to go. Organic chicken. I have chickens in my backyard, which is a blessing. So anything you can do to get cleaner. I know in Oklahoma, we're blessed with having a lot of ranches and the ability to get fresher, cleaner meat, and knowing how they're raising those animals is a big one too. And then when you're looking at different proteins, being able to read labels and know what you're putting in your body and knowing what, doing the research on the companies if you're buying different things to make sure that company is doing due diligence with testing and not giving you contaminants. There's a lot out there right now in the world, and They're talking about lead in protein powders now, and I know that's been a big thing. So you just need to make sure wherever you're getting, if you are using protein powders to supplement, that you're reading the label, but you're also researching the company itself. How do they test? How do they source? How often do they test? And who are their third-party testers and what are they testing? And that will help give you reassurance that what you're doing and giving to you and your family is good for you and not harmful, because just because it says probiotic or protein and it's at the store doesn't mean it's high quality or good for you. Even if it costs a lot of money doesn't mean it's good for you. So just being mindful of those things is helpful. Prebiotics are the fiber that feeds the good gut bacteria. And where do we get that from? Fruits and veggies mostly, and we just don't eat enough of those. One, they're expensive and they can go bad. So going to farmers markets, being able to grow your own, buying frozen is actually beneficial. Frozen whole fruits and veggies, they flash freeze them when they have when they're at the peak of nutrients and freshness. So getting frozen fruits and veggies is absolutely fine and beneficial because you're getting lots of great antioxidants, all the good stuff that you want in fruits and veggies, but you're also getting the fiber. And then there's ways to actually add in supplements to help, because remember, 50 years ago, what our grandparents were eating coming from the earth had a lot more nutrition in it than what we have now, unfortunately. Our soil in this country is very depleted. So I even get clients who are thriving in what they're eating and doing as a lifestyle, but they come to me and I would look at them and think they're thriving in everything I know that they're doing. But when I do a wellness consult with them, I see that even though they're checking off all the marks on what they're eating and active and sleeping, they're really inflamed. They have a lot of this chronic inflammation and stress on their body. And it's because what they're eating, they're not absorbing and it's not enough. So they just need some supplements to fill in the nutrition gaps. It doesn't mean they don't eat whole foods, just fill in nutrition gaps. Probiotics are the beneficial bacteria for the gut. Those are the good guys that we want to help kind of be in the gut. They do a lot of things in our body. They help prevent leaky gut. They help with nutrition absorption. They have a huge role. And what's happening is probiotics are fed by fiber. In this country, we don't. The recommended daily allowance for fiber is 25 to 35 grams a day. We don't even get half of that most of the time in this country, just to give you a number if you're a person that likes that. And so what we have to do is just get a little bit more probiotics in our body. Again, reading labels, making sure your money is going to something that's actually going to benefit you. Just because it says it on the shelf doesn't mean that's in it. So if you have questions on that, by all means, ask me after this or reach out to me separate. Um, but that's huge too. And then for the bad gut bacteria, sugar is what the bad gut bacteria eats. So when you're craving sugar, one of the reasons is you have an imbalanced gut. It also will change your taste buds as well when your gut is imbalanced. So probiotics are helping your gut flourish. Digestive enzymes are what helps you break down the food so you absorb the nutrition. So the carbs, the fats, the proteins. You can be eating all the right things, but still not absorbing them if your body doesn't have the digestive enzymes to do that. Most people with gut health issues don't have the digestive enzymes to do that. And so when we help with supplements to kind of fill that gap in, then they start to see the needle move in the right direction for them. And Hippocrates was on this. How long ago Hippocrates was talking about gut and exercise and food as medicine. And we've gone through this whole science research lab, and we're coming right back to where Hippocrates started, that it's in what we eat and how we move and sunshine and all those things that we're talking about today. Okay, exercise. We talked about exercise, movement. Our bodies are designed to move because this improves our mindset. It helps us with motivation. It helps us with self-esteem. It helps us with self-regulation. It helps us with attention. I was just talking to my friend this weekend, and she works from 8 to 8 every day, Monday through Friday. She works out in the morning. She has a great routine in the morning. Lunchtime comes. She works through lunch. She works till 8 p.m. She's dragging all afternoon. She's doing all the other things. She eats well, she sleeps well, she exercises in the morning. But our bodies are meant to move, not sit in a chair from 8 to 8, other than going to the bathroom and grabbing a quick lunch to eat at your desk. And so, what we talked about was her getting up at lunchtime, getting out of her house because she works from home, and walking in nature, outdoors, in the sunlight, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, one loop in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I told her start small so that it's doable and watch the benefits of how it impacts her afternoon. Because we're so busy grinding it out and pushing through that we lose the capacity to do what we're doing at an optimal level. So it's
Yes.
taking us twice as long. But if you take a breath, and you get up and you give yourself a break, your brain in the subconscious level is still processing. You're getting more blood flow to the brain. Your body is relaxing. Your stress response is relaxing. All these things with the nervous system we talked about is happening. And then your brain is mentally clear and ready. And it's still been working on what you've been working on. And then you execute at a much more effective and efficient way. You also will have anti-inflammatory effects. Like I said, it's helping downregulate the stress response and it's helping with chronic inflammation in your body, reduces stress and anxiety. It just something, like I said, it could be 5 minutes, 15 minutes at lunch, but 20 minutes a day, if you can do that, you build up, you start small. If you're not doing anything, I've had people start for 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Being outside, getting fresh air, taking a deep breath. It doesn't have to be big. I think we set our goals too big and they're
Hmm.
unachievable and we think we have to be perfect at them and we start by saying we're going to work out 2 hours a day 5 days a week, and when we don't do it on day one the whole week goes down. We want to just start. We don't have to be perfect. We just want to start because those little start steps will compound. So once you do 5 minutes of exercise and you feel better, you'll be more apt to go, hey, you know what? I have 10 minutes today and I want to go do that.
Yes.
So just focusing on the small daily wins and changes will impact you. Everything that Kathy and I have done, and we've shared this with each other, we have not done overnight. It was not like one day we woke up and said we're doing it all at once. I started with something simple, knowing I wanted to move in the needle in a positive direction, and I didn't want my story to be what was happening to my body and chronic disease and autoimmune disease. I wanted to thrive. I made some conscious decisions, so I stopped and said, "Okay, I'm going to move the needle. What can I start with?" And little habits, little small steps, and then it compounded. We talked a little bit about sleep, but it is vital. Sleep is medicine. Treat sleep as a prescription. This is the number one thing that most of us will shortcut in our lives, and we cannot, especially as we're aging, but we cannot. Sleep, when you get quality sleep, you can function at such a higher level. It will help relieve burnout and exhaustion. And in the research, we're looking at for adults 7 to 9 hours of sleep nightly, sometimes more. There are nights I need 10 hours of sleep, and I really listen to my body, and I'm really in tune so much more now because I've closed out the outdoor noise and I align and I get center and I listen to what I need. And some days I can do 7 hours, and other days I need 9 or 10 hours, and that's okay, but a minimum of 7 hours of quality sleep. If we don't get at least 7 hours of quality sleep, we have undone any healthy things we were doing all day.
Yes.
And I hate to tell you that because I don't want to break your heart, but that's how important sleep is. So if you feel like you're stuck in a cycle where you're doing all these things all day, but you're not quite getting the results you want, maybe weight loss or blood sugar levels, there is a biochemical reason why. If we're not getting enough
Yes.
sleep, we go into more insulin resistance, meaning our blood sugar levels will run higher. We'll crave more carbs. Cortisol will go up, and that's that stress hormone. So our bodies are not truly resting and resetting. So there's lots of reasons biologically behind the scenes as to why this is so important. So really make sure that you're implementing sleep and at least 7 hours of quality sleep a night. Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay. Yes, and then we go back to the stress and mindset, um, realigning. What is my purpose? Why am I here? What is the most important things that I want to focus on and give my attention to? And then from there, we pull out of just survival mode and we start to prioritize things. And when we start to prioritize ourselves, um, that is when we can really start to see that letting go of some things is really the best thing for us. So the mindset is I can let go of some things. That's the first place. It's possible that if I change the way I'm doing things, that things could actually run even better with me taking my hands off of it. And that with that, there's this place of pause, which is also prayer. asking for help. There's a power greater than all of us that's breathing every single one of us. That's put the breath in our lungs today, and that power is available to us. But there is this pause and this slowing down and deciding. This mindset is, what, it is possible for me to really thrive, and I don't have to continue on this pathway. It's not healthy, and I need to change something. And then we want to revisit our why. Why am I doing all these different things? Why is it for somebody else, or is it for me? Is it for obligation, or to save face, or to look a certain way that I think other people, would like me to show up as? Or is it really what's most important to me? And then we want to design our days around, and it's not selfish. See that, Linnea alluded to this earlier, is sometimes we as women, well, I can't do that because, I can't do this. I can't. Well, what can I do is one of the first questions I want to start with. What can I do to take a few minutes and to get realigned with my real why, my real purpose, why I'm here? What can I do to improve my health? And it is just a small thing. And this is part of the mindset thing. 1% of improvement on a daily basis is going to have that compound interest return on you. Because like I said, my story started back in my early 50s with the autoimmune, and that was cumulative of all those years that I had neglected. Well, where I am now is cumulative of all the times that I've taken little baby steps, doable steps, things that I can do. And so it's like, I speak to a lot of different women, and it's like, well, I can't do that, or I can't afford that, or I can't. And it's like, no, you need to stop saying I can't, because the more you say I can't, the more you're creating neural pathways that keep you stuck in the same situation that you're in. So we need to stop and say, what can I do? What's one baby step I can do? And then you start to design your days around it. And then you start to get in alignment why you're really here on planet Earth. And then the obligations, we just get to a place where we start to understand, I'm doing that out of obligation, not because it brings me life or is what I really feel I'm here to do. It's because there was an expectation, and I was trying to live up to an expectation. And that's not the reason why we want to do anything. And then the one thing I was going to say something else, and it flew out my head. So maybe it'll come back. But starting with the decision, I can change. I can do something. What can I do? And then you sit with it for a few minutes, and something will come to you, something little. Well, I can try this. Well, I can go outside for 2 minutes and listen to to refocus and to change what I'm thinking on. I can stand here and drink a good healthy glass of water for 5 minutes and take a break and concentrate on this. What can I do? And so that's really where we want to encourage you. Every little baby step you're taking in the direction of what you would love is bringing you that much closer to the person you really are wanting to show up as and be in every area of your life.
Go ahead, Katz.
Oh, community. Oh my gosh. If this isn't, you know, I've been in different communities, a lot of different communities. My husband and I were in ministry, and excuse me. Okay, pardon you, pardon me. And what I know for a fact is LBW is one of the most beautiful communities that had the privilege to be a part of. And sometimes we have to understand that the people that the 5 people that we're in closest proximity to are influencing our lives in many ways. So you have to ask yourself, who am I surrounding myself with? Am I surrounding myself with like-minded people who are moving in the same direction? Or am I, and don't take this wrong, but sometimes it's like we work so hard and we just want to hang out and just be girls. But if the girls we're hanging out with are just going to have a session about, trying to escape the things, or, or we're going to just validate each other. Oh yeah, you've got it tough. That's not going to take me forward. That I need is people who are moving forward like me, the same tribe, the same attitude that, there is a way and I'm going to find it and I'm going to enjoy this gift of life that I've been blessed with. And so community is super important. And so this is another where we have to take inventory. We need to take inventory of our thoughts and we need to take inventory of who we're hanging out with. We need to take inventory of our words, what's coming out of our mouth, what we're writing, what we're reading, what we're thinking. And then we need to spend time with those quality people who who love us and know that together we're going to arrive at what we really want in this life, and that's to really have healthy, happy lives.
So true. Okay, so how can we help? I put up some information for Kathy and I. If you would like to reach out to us one-on-one for anything specific that you're needing, you can reach out to both of us. We really complement each other. If there's something that pertains to one of us, you can do that. If that's something that's on your heart to do, there's no bad question. We're here to help others thrive because we know what it's like to feel to be in that cycle of burnout and not thriving and see the impact on our health. And remembering that your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change. You have control. You are not. Your day does not control or own you. You own your life and your day. And there are things you can do to move the needle forward and get into thriving. I see it every day, and so does Kathy. Amazing stories where women got the information when we know better, we can do better, and started taking the steps in the direction, baby steps, small steps. Just one small step makes a huge impact because that ripples out and it compounds. So next,
Yes.
we just wanted to open it up to some Q&A. I'm going to stop the recording and stop sharing, and then we'd love to answer any questions you might have. And we really hope that this brought you value because that's truly what's on our hearts is to give and help you guys move the needle in the direction you want in your lives.